This is the Norris Group's Real Estate Investor Radio Show, the award-winning show dedicated to thought leaders shaping the real estate industry and local experts revealing their insider tips to succeed in an ever-changing real estate market. Hosted by author, investor, and hard money lender, Bruce Norris.
On Friday, September 27th, the Norris Group proudly presented its 12th annual award-winning black tie event, I Survived Real Estate. An incredible lineup of industry experts joined Bruce and Aaron Norris to discuss perplexing industry trends, head-scratching legislation, massive tech disruption, and opportunities emerging for real estate professionals. All proceeds from the event benefit Make-A-Wish and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. This event is not possible without the generous help of the following platinum partners: the San Diego Creative Real Estate Investors Association, InvestClub, ThinkRealty, Coach Fullerton, Keller Williams Corona, PropertyRadar, the Apartment Owners Association, MVT Productions, and Realty 411. Visit isurvivedrealestate.com for event information.
I'm just going to throw this out there because we'll come back to it later. When Lehman Brothers, we watched that movie, and I just want to know, when they came to the table and wanted money, was it the same type of meeting where they came, only the asset base that they had wasn't valuable and no one would exchange money for them? Is that in that world, or is that a different world?
It's sort of in that world.
Okay.
But there's some differences. The issue in that world was, and if you'll indulge me with a little anecdote, it's the single scariest day of my entire professional career. It was the second Friday in the month of August in 2007. And I had Michael Berman, who ran CW Capital, the biggest B-piece holder of commercial real estate in the country, called and said, I just had a $3 billion deal that evaporated, and I can tell you that market's not coming back. So we were sitting at the desk trying to figure out what do we do about this? Who do we talk to? Because we're not a regulator, we're a trade association, right? So then the phone rings at 4:45, and it's Don Cohn, who was the vice president of the Federal Reserve Board. And he said hello, and then he said, Doug, what do you think we should do? So, honest quote, I said, Governor, if you are calling me, it's a lot worse than I thought. Because I'm not at the top of the totem pole. But that issue differs from this one in that what was going on then, and this is what I told him. I said, I always redound to Economics 101. In order for an asset to have value, it needs to have a price. It's valued by its price. And to have a price, there has to be both willing buyers and sellers. And today, Governor, there are only sellers. So I think you have to be a buyer, which they did 11 months later, right? But it's because no one trusted the value of the balance sheets of their trading partner. That's not what's going on today.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
That's a different thing.
Okay, we've got to go sit down and give Aaron his turn, and we will be back up here to bat it around some more. Thank you.
Yep, look at you. Wow, right on time. All right, we're going to show your answer to how you're feeling about the economy. Opportunity.
Hey, how's that?
This is an investor crowd, so I don't know how to take that. They probably think it's going to crash and they have opportunity. I don't know. Good to know. All right, we've got another one for you. We are going to ask a different question. The quiz now is the iBuyer model here to stay? You don't have to retype in the Norris Group to 22333 unless you haven't participated yet. But what you're going to be typing in is A, if you think yes, the iBuyer model is here to stay. B, no, it's not here to stay. Or C, what is an iBuyer? It's okay, I'm not judging. It's anonymous. We're not tracking you. With that, I'm going to call up our next three panelists. Mark Leswing, he's the Senior VP at T360. a management consultancy firm in the residential real estate brokerage industry with a specialty in technology. He's done a lot of research on blockchain technology. He's a blockchain entrepreneur, and we'll be talking about that tonight. Simon Chin, the Executive VP of Innovation for Realogy. Simon has recently been appointed to head of a new product, an innovation for Realogy. All right, let's go to the slide and then we'll come back. He's fresh off of being president and CEO of the ERA Franchise Systems. He actually walked here tonight. He lives in the neighborhood. What are the chances? And last but certainly not least, Sean O'Toole, founder and CEO of PropertyRadar, now in his 11th season at I Survive Real Estate, our longest running panelist. He is the founder of PropertyRadar, the property data owner information platform real estate pros have trusted since 2007. I use it every day. Please come up, gentlemen. Glad to, and if you could all give them a warm welcome. Okay, let's now go back to the slide of the iBuyer. How are, if people think that the iBuyer, yes, no, and okay. We have to talk about the iBuyer. Simon, since Realogy is dabbling in the iBuyer space, would you like to give your definition of what an iBuyer is?
Sure. So there's a number of competitors in the space now that are talking about iBuying. In sort of brief terms, it's basically the ability for a seller to be able to sell their home in a very rapid fashion, usually in a span of 5 to 7 to 10 days or so, right? Typically, it's at a discount, so usually the buyer of the property, it's sort of a bit of a misnomer, is an investor, right, that is looking for very specific parameters around what they would be willing to pay for these properties so that they go very quickly. The practical usage for the seller, obviously, is people that can't be bothered with selling their homes because they don't want to clean it out. They've got 20 years worth of stuff that they've accumulated or what have you. Or, folks that have a contingency on their homes, or folks that are relocating or moving to, some other property or something like that where getting rid of their property is contingent upon moving to the new place. So that is sort of the dynamic that's out there.
They're basically getting in our space. All cash, fast, flexible, nobody's walking through the house. I think I was speaking and a realtor came up to me and she's like, I got a call at 8:30 last night. Somebody was in front wanting to see, and she's like, you'll have to wait till tomorrow. And they're like, but it says that I can just come in. There's an app. I can let myself in. And the agent was very uncomfortable. They had just been cut out of the chain. So this is Wall Street money. Backed by lots of technology, and when we're talking about the kind of money, up on the screen, you've got some of the players. Open Door, only around since 2014, yet they've raised $1.5 billion. They just announced this summer a partnership with Redfin, and it's no wonder. They have been spending millions of dollars on advertising on all the markets they're in. OfferPad has been in California for a few years, but started in 2015. They've raised $115 million. Nick Bailey was here a couple years ago just touting that Zillow absolutely not would be in the iBuyer space. And they threw their hat in this year, and they've gone pretty hard, pretty quick, at least here in California. Yep. Keller Williams announced early, I think it was about a year ago at InMid, that they had secretly done about 100 deals, and this summer announced that they'd be working with OfferPad. NACA's not yet that I've seen in California, but they've raised a total of $430 million, been around since 2015, and then NRT is a brand of Realogy, and you've got the Catalyst Cash offer, and you've been around since about, how long would you say Realogy has been around? You are the parent brand for, can you rattle off, I was not aware of Realogy as a parent company to all these brands, but can you share the brands?
Yeah, so the brands under Realogy. So not a lot of people have heard about Realogy because we don't go to market as Realogy, but you might have heard some of our brands. We own Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, which is what I formerly was heading up, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's Real Estate, as well as Corcoran. So we represent about 18% of the U.S. domestic residential real estate market.
And that's a lot of money really quick. Sean, you work with real estate investors every day. Is there a sense of like, they can't do what we can do? Is there a Wall Street arrogance about the iBuyers in the space? What do you think?
Arrogance? I love which one was it that you said just closed in on 100 deals?
That was Keller Williams secretly behind the scenes.
Keller Williams. So, there's 6 months, they'll catch up with me. And another 20 years, they'll catch up with some of the folks in this room, right? Yeah. And I guarantee we all had better margins. So, you know, there's too much money out there chasing too little return, and, you know, they'll put that money behind folks that went to really good schools and can build really good models rather than people that, you know, are actually out in the marketplace doing things. And I think that probably this room has a lot to teach that group. You know, I think they're going to, I don't think as it's being executed right now, it's a well thought out plan. I think of what was the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the, what movie was that? Like, Master, this isn't a very good plan.
Is that Toy Story?
Toy Story.
No, was it Toy Story? I don't know.
Toy Story, yeah, Toy Story.
I belong to several associations, and I've talked to some of the iBuyers, and they're very young and very hungry, but there's a sense of competitiveness that's happened as well. So my question to them was like, how are you feeling about this brand entering the market? And they're like, we'll get them. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good strategy. And I do have real estate investors that are actively pitting them against each other as they 1031 exchange outside of California. So they're purposely getting offers from every single one of them, taking the highest and best. And for the most part, I'm hearing they're really happy with the offers. So they're like, they understand this model. So when I spoke to Open Door about 6 months ago, I'm like, why aren't you working with real estate investors? And at that time, they said that the brand was so important to them, they didn't want to work with, you know, Main Street. They were Wall Street, they were about scale, and they're spending a lot of money on advertising. But I do think that this summer, them announcing the partnerships with Redfin was really important. I've heard that Open Door is one of the only iBuyers up in the Sacramento market. They were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every month and no home for the leads for things that they couldn't buy. That's horrendous. But let's get to vertical integration, one of my favorite Wall Street words. Because maybe they don't need to make all the money on the buy-sell side of real estate. Maybe it's because they're opening up lending offices, closing businesses. Mark, you've been in this space for a long time, and I know this isn't why I had you on the panel, but T360 is really well known for all their research, so you are joining some fantastic company. Really nice to have you here. Is this a big concern for a lot of the clients that are looking to T360 for research? Is there a lot of pressure for every real estate brand to get into this business?
Yeah, there's always a lot of pressure, but I'll tell you, a lot of this iBuyer stuff and all the other things that have come along, just when things seem to be calmed down, we have to always invent something that gets a crisis mode, and then it calms down. So it's kind of the thing right now that everybody's looking at. So you do have to address it all the way up and down, getting into other businesses, how do you make it more efficient. But this too will come to pass, and then some new crisis will come up after that to occupy everybody's space.
Well, then let me ask it this way, and we'll go down the line. A lot of these brands have not been around since 2014. It all works until it doesn't. Are they recession-proof? Mm-hmm. If there's a recession that hits and the prices start going down, even if not a lot, will they survive?
Yeah. So one of the innovators, I guess, in the space is Open Door. They've received a lot of money from SoftBank. You might have heard about SoftBank recently. There was this little company called WeWork that didn't go public over the last couple of weeks or so, and their valuation went down over 80% over private money valuations in the last couple of rounds. So we, as actually profitable operations, are looking at that, pretty, with a fair amount of interest, because we want to see if this is, 1999 all over again, basically, where the private equity investments into a lot of these companies is going to sort of turn around and bite them when they try to, get public investments into them. So the net from our perspective is there is certainly a place. We're brokers. We have 300,000 agents globally. There is certainly a place for people like my dad, for example, right, who is very concerned that he does not pass along a legacy of debt to the kids. And therefore, if he needs to go to senior housing, for example, right, he wants to be able to turn his house easily without burdening us in any way, shape, or form. And I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm a broker. Like, we could sell your house, no big problem, right? But for him, he doesn't want to burden us at all, right? So I do think that there will be some portion of the market that wants to sell their house at a discount for convenience. Just like you go to 7-Eleven to buy that pack of gum instead of Costco because you don't want, 8,000 packages of gum at your house, but the unit cost is very different, right? So I think there will be a role for it. Some people are saying that it could be as much as 60% of the residential real estate market. I don't happen to believe that. I think it's going to be more, when it all normalizes after 10, 15 years, it'll be more like, 10, 15% or so.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard the 60% number too. Yeah. Sean, are they in or are they out?
Well, so first of all, I totally agree that they are addressing a market need, right? Like, there is a reason why so many folks are pouring so much money into this. Like, the normal house sale process, it's difficult, time-consuming, expensive, and I think, and so to your point on vertical integration, right, to the degree they can pull in title and mortgage and other things and build that into their stack, right? I think that there is an opportunity for savings there. And we saw that in the trustee sale business. I have multiple trustee sale customers that started to vertically integrate as the market got more competitive, right? So, okay, I can't make as much money at the sale, but boy, if my construction company does the repairs, one even went so far as to have a title company and a mortgage company and the real estate brokerage, and you roll all of that in, maybe there was zero profit on the flip, right? But the profits on all those other pieces still made that business work. So I totally, believe that you have to have some level, especially with this level of competition, vertical integration is going to have to happen. I still think that maybe what they're paying for properties in order to try to prove out their model is certainly not sustainable. There needs to be more margin there. And, as we all know, right? You let the margins get too thin and you take more risk and you get hurt in a downturn. So I do think that they face a lot of risk in a downturn.
I'm using PropertyRadar to track every buy-sale transaction for all the major iBuyers. I'm that nerd. Yeah. I love Open Door because it says it puts it on their credit line. Every time they buy, it's like $400 million. I'm all, wow. Yeah, geez. Mark, what do you think?
I think if you look at the motivation behind the iBuyers, once it does calm down, I totally agree. I don't know if it can ever get to that 16 because I think it's going to take part of the market that's the FSBO market today. And that FSBO market, you got 12, 13%. So it's going to be a percentage of that. So I think it's even going to be lower. I think it's going to be more near 5 to 6%. It can't take over the FSBO market. But the buyer or the seller there is kind of motivated by the same kind of things that you find in iBuyer.
Yeah, and I think there is going to be real estate investors that there's going to be stuff that they're just not going to buy. Craig in our office calls them situations, and he often uses quotes. It's the messy stuff, the people who put up the duck wallpaper or the grapes in the kitchen. They're like, we just put that up like 20 years ago, and it's not worth $20,000 more. So complex probate transactions, so I don't think they're going to be taking over all the real estate investor transactions, but definitely there are competitions for realtors and investors, especially if we don't keep up. Yeah. That leads into disruption. And you just got named a pretty big role in Realogy. What does a good investment in technology look like? You've got Keller Williams that over the last year says that he's planning on spending $1 billion. Where do you invest $1 billion in technology for your agents?
Sure. So number one, not to incite a riot from any Keller Williams folks in the room, but, that $1 billion is sort of the amount that he's investing, but it isn't necessarily being spent in any sort of defined time frame. We at Realogy actually spend about $200 million a year on real estate technology, and that's, for our investor or for our agent population. So, where do we spend the money? Right now, if you look at real estate technology. Actually, let me back up a second. So I'm reasonably well connected in the real estate world, right? And I buy a fair number of properties a year. I'm an investor myself. And frankly, the experience is kind of crappy, right, for consumers. And so, one of my great passions being in the industry for the last 20 years or so is how to make it a nice experience. And a place that I shamelessly spend a ridiculous amount of my, income is Amazon.com, right? So why, and I'm sure by the time I get home tonight walking, right, there will be a wall of boxes in front of my door that I have to bring inside when I walk in. And the point to that, though, is that, they create value. Otherwise, we wouldn't be spending money there, right? So how do we make the consumer experience more like Amazon.com? Because I think we would all agree that the consumer experience is far from it right now for real estate purchases. And that's, I think, the direction that we're moving in, right, is actually applying more modern technology so that the consumer experience is a lot more intuitive. There's a lot more transparency for the consumers, kind of like there's increasingly being on the mortgage front, where you can actually see what's going on in the transaction. You can sign your forms online. You can see the workflow, the contingencies, and everything like that all online. And then, heaven forbid, once you close escrow, that whole home ownership experience, basically the Amazon of home ownership for the consumer, is all on the website as well. So like if you ever need to pull your documents for your taxes, or if you ever need to see like what the heck is installed in your house and whether you maybe should anticipate getting your air conditioning service before it ends up costing you 4 times as much because it's hot outside, those sorts of things should all be within that experience, right? And your engagement with your realtor over that 9 out of 10 years that you're not transacting is all sort of in there. So I think there's an awful lot to still be done on that front, and that's a big part of the load that I'm bearing right now.
I'm glad you went that far deep into the sales process. So a lot of people think that the sale is over when the transaction stops.
Sure.
But what you're talking about is taking it all the way through further. What it feels like is that there's a lot of pressure for real estate brands to, once you enter an ecosystem, you're controlling it, not just for the first transaction of the buy, but much further down the road.
Well, so the interesting stat about that is, so yes, ideally, right? You hope you would get a consumer in and then they're yours forever, right? But the numbers actually belie that, right? So 90% of consumers say that they would work with their agent again right after they close escrow, right? So, hey, congratulations, you got the key, we're so happy, boom, 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 boom. The actual percentage that end up using that agent again after 7 to 9 years, depending on whose data you're looking at, 12%. Wow. Right? So if my technology that I just described can help bridge that gap between 90 and 12, we're dancing in the streets as a publicly traded company, right? Because we're suddenly capturing a tremendous amount of business that we don't have to go out and refarm again.
All right. Sean, what do you think real estate investors and realtors should be focused on? It seems a little overwhelming when you see the amount of vertical integration that some of these huge brands are pouring a lot of money behind. And not all of us are behind, just $1.5 million credit card, spending money on technology. What do you think we should be focused on?
Probably not that. At the end of the day, right, if you focus on your core business and find efficiencies in your own business. Like, these guys are trying to find efficiencies on a massive scale, but we can all find additional efficiencies, right? Like, I think that is one thing. A lot of the trustee sale customers, like I said, started to vertically integrate themselves. Sure, maybe it was on a small, scale, but if you're doing if you're a larger investor flipping quite a few deals, it's not out of the question to own your own construction company, to own your own even title agency, right? That's possible. But there are a lot of things you can do. I even think maybe it's interesting for real estate investment groups or clubs to start thinking about sharing things.
A little closer. Yeah.
A little closer.
There you go.
We can all be a little more efficient, and I think that's one thing we can take away from all of this. In terms of, are these going to completely dry up every deal in your area? To your point earlier, there's, the hoarder houses. There's still going to be all these things that these guys aren't going to want to touch, right? They grew up on Wall Street. They went to really nice schools. They want nice, clean houses, kind of like we used to buy in, 2009 when that first wave of foreclosures came through, and you got brand new houses that were 2 years old and the carpet was clean.
We made a joke last year at I Survive Real Estate. Would you have brands like Amazon and Home Depot come up with the Sears catalog? You and I had talked about this as well, to where if Amazon gets in the game or Google, Amazon invested in a company called Plant Prefab. If you listen to our radio show, one of the reasons I interviewed them was because Amazon was investing in them. Berkshire Hathaway owns Clayton Homes. You've got some very big money behind prefab, and I'm just really interested into why. But what if Amazon starts listing homes that you can just get delivered on your back door? In some cases, you already can, but they don't have water and toilets. So just careful what you buy. You're like, I can buy a house for $8,000. Yeah, it's basically a tree house. I don't want to go too deep into this, but one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in specifically last year as well. You spent 17 years at the National Association of Realtors, and you were on a radio show a couple years ago talking about blockchain. Sean and I were talking about this before, and Simon and I talked about it a little bit as well. You're really deep in it. Is anybody in this room ever really going to touch blockchain and understand what it is? Or is it going to be one of those things behind the scene that it's just really cool, it's secure, and we're good to go?
Well, first of all, the best news is you'll never have to worry about touching it because it's actually going to be buried in the applications. But I can probably describe what blockchain is. So you can go home tonight, I can do it in under a minute.
That would be amazing.
All right. Okay, so buckle up, here we go. So if you had a driver's license, it's pretty clear. All the fields in the driver's license, you have like 15, 20 fields. You can't add any information to that, right? That's a database. You could probably list all the information in an Excel spreadsheet, very rectangular. Now, as you go and drive around a little bit and you get stopped by police, whatever, you have a driving record. There's a number of things. It's like a chain of things. Some people have a long one, some have a short one. That's a blockchain. So a blockchain is a record. It's a log of what's happened versus a driving license. So driver's license, driving record, database, blockchain. All this other crypto stuff is crazy.
Definitely the easiest way I've heard it described.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I interviewed blockchain.info for a report that we were writing, and he's like, yeah, you're not going to see it in the United States. We've got a lot of bureaucracy in real estate. You basically have to get the Appraisal Institute, ALTA, the National Association of Realtors, the Mortgage Bankers Association. We'd all sort of have to agree, and what I'm seeing right now is title companies sort of creating their own private blockchain, and that sort of seems like not what the technology was supposed to be.
I totally disagree because if you think of things as a driving record, every offense is just chained out there. Therefore, I think if we try to use blockchain to rip apart all these repositories, whether they be MLS, title, lending, or even the county records, we've done ourselves a great disservice. But actually, it can actually help you move the transaction across them, and therefore making vertical integration, as we talked about before, more of a reality. Therefore, it'll help what we're doing. It does not replace it. Therefore, I think it's foolhardy to think that we'd be replacing all this stuff with blockchains.
We're just going to make it more efficient by adding
Absolutely.
blockchain. Okay. I was going to try to find a fun way to do this. We've got about 5 minutes before dessert. Chocolate's on the table. I was trying to think, do I play this? You know, I have a 10-year-old I'm raising, and they really have to be in the real estate industry. What sector would I send them to? Or do we play a nice game of marry, cuddle, kill with all the different sectors? But let's just talk about some of the, that was a much nicer version. Some of you are laughing. Let's talk about the industries we think that are really going to be disrupted and probably go away, whether it be because of artificial intelligence, blockchain, whatever it is.
And now we got to start.
I'll go.
We'll start on this end this time.
Okay. So the things that get disrupted, is anybody making money out of holding on to data and then making profit off of your data? Therefore, they take your data, put it someplace, then they make money out and never give any money back. That is going to be out. Therefore, the concept of data as labor. Your data is your labor. You should be rewarded for it. These new technologies can track where all that data came from, and we should change the economic model.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under California DRE License 012-19911, Florida Mortgage Lender License 1577, and NMLS License 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.
The Norris Group would like to thank its gold sponsors for supporting I Survived Real Estate, Coldwell Banker Town & Country, In a Day Development, Inland Valley Association of Realtors, Keystone CPA, Las Brisas Escrow, LA South RIA, Michael Ryan and Associates, NorCal RIA, NSDREI, Orange County Real Estate Investors, Pacific Premier Bank, Pasadena Phoebe, Shenbaum Group, SJREI, Spinnaker Loans, South OC RIA, U-Direct IRA Services, White House Catering, Wilson Investment Properties, See iSurvivedRealEstate.com for event information.
For more information on hard money loans and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For information on passive investing with trust deeds, visit tngtrustdeeds.com.